That was cool. Hi, guys. Definitely excited to be here. You guys are awesome. I know many of you. I had a lot of you in middle school years ago, if not just a year ago or a few years ago. But I'm excited to be here with you guys. But before I jump in, I do want to say one thing. You guys have an incredible high school ministry. Yeah, you can give it up for that. Your leaders, your adult leaders, your student leaders, the staff who help make all of this happen, they have so much love and care for you. It's not even funny. And I am just so blessed and encouraged to see that because it is seriously amazing what you guys have here. I always make it a point to say that because so often it's so easy to jump into what we're used to and what's kind of routine for us and take a little bit of take that for granted a little bit. And so I want to remind you guys are seriously a part of something special here. God is doing something amazing here. The friendships and the relationships that come out of this place seriously blow me away. It's amazing. And so I want to jump into a message that I have for you guys today. But I got a question. How many of you seen the OG Dumbo? Okay, cool. I'm sorry. Not a good one. Disney kind of, that was a bummer of a one. But Disney was like, they're like, hey, you know what? This wasn't a great one, so why don't we remake it and try to make it great again? And so they did that, and I got to watch that movie this past week, and I will say it's better than the animated one. I'll just leave it at that. Dumbo was a flop, okay? Dumbo was a flop all around. But we are going to look at a clip today from the live-action Dumbo. How many of you seen that one? Live-action Dumbo, the new one. Okay, look, see? I told you. Dumbo's not exactly the most popular movie in the world. Now, this clip you are about to see, it is not the most amazing clip from the movie. It's not the most extravagant clip of the movie. But there is a sentence spoken by a girl in this clip that I think if we do not grasp this, it will destroy us. And I don't mean that to be extreme, I mean that to mean that. So check out this clip.
The crowd's come to see me. Max, please. I need to work.
Good news. One job I have.
Okay then, give me a showstopper.
You know that old rascal Itchy McPhee? He finally ran off with the bearded lady. I've been filling in with roustabouts ever since. I need somebody good to tend the elephants.
No, you're not serious.
I am on occasion. This is a big job, and you know it.
No, it's a big shovel for a big polish.
Dad.
So you sold my horses. You kept your elephants. Your scrawny, mangy, cut-rate elephants.
They're important, especially this season.
Why's that?
I know it goes against my nature, but for once, I made an investment. Bellissima! There she is. Our brand new Asian female. I bought her off of Brugelbecker in Biloxi. I had to get him way down in the price, but I swear to you, Holt, I saw something special in her eyes.
This is your investment? An old sick elephant.
Oh, no. She's not sick. Any day now, she's having a baby.
Dad, watch! Dad, I'm getting better!
Hang on now, this is our tent. What happened to our things? We had nice furniture. We had rooms. Max, what didn't you sell? You son of a gun.
Dad, look!
Toys.
They're not toys. They're from my science experiments.
We're a circus, darling, a circus. You know, we need to be practical if we want to survive. You couldn't just take up one act, a tumbling or a tightrope.
Maybe I don't need the world staring at me. Maybe I'm just not you and Mom.
Well, who makes the rules in this family?
Mom did.
Yeah, well, I'll make them now, so just go to your room.
This is my room. This is all our rooms.
See this? You know what this is? It's your inheritance.
Dad! Don't worry. He's not going anywhere. He's stuck here. Like you and me.
Did you catch it? Yes, you think you did. Awesome. I will save you any kind of embarrassment of possibly getting it wrong by just telling you. She stands there and she looks at her dad and says, maybe I don't need everybody looking at me. Maybe I don't want to, maybe I'm not you and mom. And if we cannot start to understand this idea that we do not need everybody staring at us and everybody looking at us, then it will eventually come to destroy us. And so what I want to do is I actually want to jump right into a story in the Bible. A story in the Bible that you have probably never heard, let alone ever heard a sermon on. So if you have your Bibles, I'd love for you to open up to the book of John. You see, John is in the New Testament. And the New Testament is all about the life of Jesus. It's about his birth, his death, his resurrection, and the establishment of his church. And so we're going to be in the book of John, and we are going to be looking at an interaction that Jesus has with his brothers. Jesus had brothers. If you didn't know that, now you do. So we're going to be in John chapter 7. We're going to look at verse 1, and we're going to go all the way to 13. I'm just going to read it through, and then I'm going to pray for us, and we're going to jump into this. So again, that is John chapter 7, verses 1 through 13. It says this: After this, Jesus traveled around Galilee. He wanted to stay out of Judea, where the Jewish leaders were plotting his death. But soon it was time for the Jewish festival of shelters, and Jesus' brothers said to him, "Leave here and go to Judea, where your followers can see your miracles. You can become famous if you hide like this. You can't become famous if you hide like this, sorry. If you can do such wonderful things, show yourself to the world." For even his brothers didn't believe in him. Jesus replied, "Now is not the right time for me to go, but you can go anytime. The world can't hate you but it does hate me because I accuse it of doing evil. You go on, I'm not going to this festival because my time has not yet come." I wonder what our lives would look like if we learned how to say "not yet" more often. After saying these things, Jesus remained in Galilee, but after his brothers left for the festival, Jesus also went, though secretly staying out of public view. The Jewish leaders tried to find him at the festival and kept asking if anybody had seen him. There was a lot of grumbling about him among the crowds. Some argued he's a good man, but others said he's nothing but a fraud who deceives the people. But no one had the courage to speak favorably about him in public, for they were afraid of getting in trouble with the Jewish leaders. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for your word. I pray that as we jump into this story, that we are able to see and hear what you have for us today. Thank you so much for the youth in this room. They are amazing and incredible, and I pray that you do a work in each and every one of their hearts. God, I pray that as we dive into this message, that what you have for us is ready to land. Lord, we love you. In your heavenly name, amen. If we are not careful, when we perform for people, we will destroy our very ability to reach people. When we perform, when we do things for people, we will destroy our very ability to reach people. And so what we are going to be talking about today is the pressure to perform. The pressure to perform. There's a lot of pressures in high school, and there's something I realized as I got a little older. You can't really appreciate a situation or something you're in until you've been removed from that. And so now that I'm outside of high school, I'm able to look into my high school years and what those brought with me. And I'm able to look in on that situation, and I'm able to understand a little bit more of the pressures of being in high school. There are so many pressures of being in high school. There are so many pressures that you are experiencing that you may not even realize you are experiencing. There are pressures within your grades, just the pressure from home to perform in such a way where your parents approve of the grades you are getting. But yet you don't want to be too smart because you don't want to get all the A's, because you have the pressure of if you get all the A's, then all of a sudden you become the smart person and everybody wants to come to you for help, and you don't even know if people want to be your friend because they are using you or because they actually want to be your friend. And you begin to feel the pressures of how do I get people to like me, and maybe I can do that by helping them with school, and then you end up getting used and you don't know what to do with that. Within your very grade, within your very academics and how you perform there are so many pressures. There are pressures that you feel day in and day out with your friendships and your relationships. You are feeling the pressures of what kind of friendships am I going to have? What kind of friendships am I going to walk into? Do I want to have the friendships where these are great friendships, but maybe we're not a part of the cool crowd, but I really want to be a part of the cool crowd, but I really want these people to like me, and I want these people to like me. And if I don't get both groups to like me, then all of a sudden I'm going to have people who don't like me, and I'm someone who needs to have people to like me. I can't have someone not like me. And all of a sudden, you have all this pressure to perform so that everybody can approve of you. There are pressures within your very relationships that go outside just your friendships. There is a relational expectation that starts to seep in as you get into high school. Are you gonna get a boyfriend? Are you gonna get a girlfriend? What kind of girlfriend are you gonna have? What kind of boyfriend are you gonna get? And then within those very relationships, there are pressures that you feel that if I need to have love in this relationship, then I have to compromise on some of my values and what I believe to be true in order to have the kind of love that people say I'm supposed to have in my relationship with this person. The pressure to perform is exhausting. You begin to feel it even in your sports. You start to think, man, I need to be the best athlete at this school. If I do not become the best athlete, then I will not get the scholarship to go play at the school that I've been dreaming about forever. And getting the scholarship that my parents don't have to pay for my schooling because college is expensive. And if I don't do well in this, I'm not doing good in my grades. And so if sports don't work out, then I'm never gonna make it to college because there's no way I can go to college if I don't get a scholarship. So I have to perform. People have to recognize me, or I'm just not gonna make it. And then there's the pressures if you call yourself a Christian, a Christ follower. There are so many pressures that you begin to feel that if you are a Christian, then there's a certain type of life you are called to live, and yet that is going contradictory to the life that everybody around you is living at your school. And all of a sudden, people find out, oh, you're the Christian guy, oh, you're the Christian girl. Don't hang out with them because you're just going to judge me for everything I do. And then you start to feel the pressures of, oh my goodness, I have to be the one to change their view of what a Christian is. And then you all of a sudden make it your entire mission to get their attention and to impress them so that they can become a Christian and see that you are not some crazy Christian that just judges everybody. There are so many pressures in which we feel to perform for the people around us. And I didn't realize how much this seeped into my high school years until I was removed from it. Because most of the time, we're not just making these decisions to do things that we don't want to do because we're just like, I don't even care, I'm not going to do it. It's mostly because we start to feel the pressure, and the pressure begins to set in, and the pressure to perform for the people around us begins to take a hold. And that happened to me. I had an incredible friend group. They were amazing. I absolutely adored them and loved them. They were good, solid dudes. They were amazing. They had integrity. They had character. And it was awesome. But then something began to tug in my heart, and something began to happen in which there was a group of people that I really wanted to be accepted by. And so I started to think, how am I going to balance this group but also get approved of this group? And so I began to think about what are the kind of ways in which I can perform to show them that I can be a part of their group. And so what began to happen is I began to start to hang out with this group a little bit more and more, and the things they were doing were things I knew were wrong, but I felt the pressure so badly to get their approval and to be accepted into their friend group that I compromised on some of my values. I compromised on some of my beliefs. I began to drink and I began to smoke so that they would see that by what I am doing, I can be a part of their group and they can trust me and that I can now be a part of this. And what began to happen is I was so desperate to get the approval and to perform in such a way that they would like me. There was a time where I was hanging out with this group of friends, this amazing group of friends who loved me and cared for me. And I looked at them and we were all hanging out and I got a text. And it was from the other friend group, and they were like, hey, Colton's parents just went out of town. Like, we're gonna have a kickback, let's go. And like right now. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm busy. And they're like, no, you gotta come. And I began to feel this pressure within me. This pressure to do what I needed to do to get the approval from the people that I wanted to get approval from. And so I looked at my friends whom I love and we have trust. And I looked at them and said, hey guys, I think I'm gonna go home. And they were like, oh, okay, everything okay? I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go home. They're like, okay, see you, dude, love you, bye. And I hopped in my car and I called my friend and I said, hey, I'm heading over, do I need to pick anything up? And so I drove over to the other friend's house and we were done and made some stupid decisions and my friends found out. And rightfully, they were upset, and it's kind of funny because their response was to go TP my house. So by the time I got home the next morning, there was TP everywhere, and I couldn't explain to my parents why my friends would have TP'd my house because I ditched them and left them so that I could go be a part of a friend group that I am doing everything I possibly can to show them that I deserve to be a part of their group. It's exhausting. It is exhausting. It's not that I wanted to be involved in all these activities. I have come to realize that it was so much pressure within me to get the approval of certain people that I had to perform in whatever way I could to get it. There's so much pressure to perform. And Jesus understands this pressure. Jesus understands the pressures we feel, the pressure to perform. Jesus was a guy who was absolutely under all kinds of scrutiny. More eyes were watching Jesus than are ever going to watch you. More people were concerned with what Jesus was doing and how he was doing it and when he was doing it. There were people, the Pharisees were watching Jesus so closely that if he even sat next to the wrong person, they called him out on it. They were upset about it. They were mad about it. If he even talked to the wrong person, they were mad at him. They looked at him and they scrutinized him and say, you're wrong, you're a sinner. How dare you? How could you hang out with these horrible people? They even looked at him and said, when he healed someone on a day of rest, and the Jewish law said you can't do any work on the day of rest. And so none of the Pharisees cared about the fact that this man was healed. They were so concerned that Jesus had done something on a day of rest. Jesus got in trouble for doing the right thing on the wrong day. How would you like it if you got in trouble for doing the right thing on the wrong day? Jesus was under so much scrutiny. He understands pressure. He understands the pressure to perform. Just before we got to the point in the story where Jesus and his brothers are hanging out, Jesus had just finished feeding 5,000 people, bread and water. He took care of their physical needs. He gave these people bread and water, 5,000 strong. And the moment he took that a little deeper and said, you have been given food, you have been given water, well, guess what? I am the bread of life. I am living water. He goes into the deeper meaning behind why he fed them. And as he began to do that, and he tells them, when you eat my flesh and drink my blood, everybody was like, what? We don't like this anymore. Jesus, thank you for the food, but we're out of here. And he pieced out. They all pieced out. Jesus had the following, 5,000 strong. We're looking at him like, yeah, dude, food, water for everybody. We didn't even have to pay for it. Let's go. The moment he tried to give them what they needed for their very souls, everybody turned and left. Jesus had the following, and he lost the following. He had the following, and then he lost the following. And then he turns to his disciple and he's like, you guys gonna leave too? They look at him like, no, we sold our boat, we're invested in you, like there's really nowhere else we can go, so I guess we'll see this all the way out. Jesus understands pressure. He understands scrutiny. And it's one thing to get scrutinized by like other people, by other people around you, maybe people at your school or maybe just acquaintances around. It's one thing to kind of like deal with that. It's a whole nother thing to get scrutinized by your family. Anybody have any siblings in the room? Raise your hand if you got a sibling, brother, sister, any of that. Cool. It's a whole nother ball game to get scrutinized by your very family. So Jesus had some brothers, and these brothers, they were talking to Jesus, and they look at Jesus, and they're like, Jesus, you've lost all your followers. We have a plan. We're going to get them back. And so they tell him, they say, hey, the Jewish festival of shelters is coming. This was an 8-day festival, super long. And they were like, Jesus, we need you to come with us and perform miracles, but leave all the other weird stuff about bread of life and living water stuff. Oh, get rid of that. And then come over here and we'll get you all the followers you need. You'll have so many. You'll be famous. Let's go. Jesus, we will get you the headlining shot at the Coachella of the Old Testament. Let's go. Jesus, come on. They had a plan for Jesus to be a public figure, to become famous. But the verse I want to jump on real quick is verse 5. It says this, for even his brothers didn't believe in him. Guys, our unbelief, our lack of belief will always lead to our need to prove it. Jesus' brothers did not believe that Jesus was who he said he was. They did not believe that he was the Messiah. And in their unbelief, they needed him to prove it. Our unbelief will always lead to our need to prove it. There's this thing in psychology. I'm going to give you a small little psychology lesson, okay? It's just a small one, okay? We've been out of school for a little while. I'm going to ease you in slowly as that is coming up very shortly, just a couple short weeks, and you guys will be back in school. So here we go. There's this thing in psychology called the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome. And I wrote the definition down so that I don't mess it up. And it says this, the imposter syndrome. A psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their accomplishments and has a fear of being exposed as a fraud. The imposter syndrome. What that is saying is that you do not believe that you are worthy of the accomplishments that you have. That you only got there by luck or by accident. And the moment people start to encourage you and say, wow, that was a good job, you begin to cringe inside and you can't even accept the encouragement because you are so terrified that they're going to figure out that you are a fraud. This is what the imposter syndrome starts to talk about and develop, that you are so afraid that people are going to figure out that you do not meet the expectations that you think they have put on you. This is something, as I was reading this, I realized this is something I struggle with. For whatever reason, sometimes I feel like I am not in a place that I'm supposed to be, that I'm faking it, that if you guys only knew, then nobody would ever want to talk to me or be around me or hear a message. It's this crippling feeling that there is nothing about your accomplishments that you earned or got, and that the moment someone figures that out, Nobody would ever want to be your friend. No one would ever want to hang out with you. Your parents would look at you as a failure. And I wonder if there's anybody who feels that way. Because when we feel that way, what we start to do is we try to prove it. We try to prove that we are meeting the expectations that you think other people have put on you. When we feel this way, we begin to try to figure out, how do I prove it? Because of the own unbelief in your heart, you begin to try to prove it to everybody around you. That is why some people can come off as so arrogant and seem to be so full of themselves, but really they are battling within their very heart the insecurities of feeling like they are a fraud. Youth feel that way. Parents feel that way. Pastors, leaders feel that way. Think about, you walk around, how in the world am I supposed to do this high school thing? How am I supposed to be a Christian in my high school? If only people knew, they would see me and know that I'm a fake. But it's not that you're a fake. It's just the unbelief you have in who God calls you to be. It kind of bums me out because what it means is we live in a day and an age and a culture where every single one of us get to experience this thing called performance anxiety. And performance anxiety is basically just the stressed outness of feeling like you need to perform for everybody around you and get the approval of everybody around you. And we all feel it. We all feel it. It's not enough to go hang out with your friends unless you put it on Instagram. It's not enough to go on a vacation with your family to California and hang out on the beach unless it's only real when you get the phone and you put the book in the spot and you get your little setup and then you get the picture and you're like, yeah, beach day with the family. Who you posting it for? I'm looking at myself too. We all are experiencing performance anxiety. It's not enough to just go hang out at your friend's house until you've said something about it or posted about it so that you can show everybody who looks at it that you have friends. We're all experiencing performance anxiety. We're all trying to perform for one another. We're trying to prove something to one another because we need to prove it because of the unbelief in our very heart. And if we can't do that, then we're going to be found out and we have to prove it. But here's the thing. When we perform for people, we will destroy the very ability to reach people. But where does this come from? You might be asking, why do people feel this way? It's because of this very real desire within each and every one of us to be unique, to be set apart, to be known differently than everybody else around us. You see, Jesus gets put in this situation, and his brothers want him to go to this party, to this festival, and create a spectacle and do amazing miracles and get a following. But Jesus says something to them. He says, now is not the right time for me to go, but you can go. He says, I'm not going to go. Because Jesus knows Jesus ultimately knows he's going to the festival, but he's not going for the approval of people. He is not going to perform for people because Jesus knows that he has a purpose. And so Jesus goes in secret and in private because he knows that if he were to go publicly, it would kill him. In the verse, it says, the Jewish leaders tried to find him at the festival and kept asking if people had seen him, and they were trying to kill him. They wanted him there because they want to get him. They want to kill him. But guess what? Jesus knows it is not his time to die in Judea yet. Because Jesus knows if I go now in this way to perform for people, it will kill me. And I'm telling you right now, if you live your life in this way, in the desire to perform for people, it will kill you within. It will destroy the very nature of who you are. And you will not be able to reach people. You will not be able to live in the purpose in which God has given you. Here's the awesome thing. Jesus knows that he does not need to go to prove anything because he knows exactly who he is. We have this deep desire to be unique, to be set apart, but guess what? You already are. You are unique. You are set apart. If you are a Christ follower, you have put your faith in Jesus, then you are unique. You are set apart. You are a son or a daughter of the living God. You are unique. You are set apart. Jesus looks at his brothers. I don't need to go to prove anything to anybody because I already know that I am the Messiah and I do not need to prove that to anybody. You are unique. You are set apart. But yet we all have this weird desire. I'm telling you, this is weird. This is really weird. And I don't think this is super new, but it's something I'm recognizing more and more. We have this weird desire in our culture and everybody around us saying that we need to be a public figure. We need to be the number one person being watched on Twitch. We need to have a YouTube channel that everybody watches so that everybody knows I need to be a public figure. I need to be known. I need to have the most likes on Instagram. I need to have the most followers. I need to make a YouTube channel where I'm putting makeup on so that I can be one of those famous people who put makeup on my face on YouTube. I'm going to try that. Just kidding. But it's weird. I'm serious, it's weird. I'm not even kidding you. It was probably, and there's people in this room who can absolutely confirm this. There was a point in time where I had recently gotten into PC gaming, and you guys are like, oh, PC gaming, what a nerd. No, it's amazing. And so I recently got into that, and then I got into like the whole Twitch thing, and I was like, oh, Twitch is cool. And I was like, oh, these streamers get like millions of views. This is nuts. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'll be a streamer. And all of a sudden, I had this desire within me to become a public figure on the Twitch world. It's weird. But something has begun to stir in us to make us think that we need to become a public figure. There's people on Instagram who, no joke, have like 100 followers, and in their little bio section says public figure. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I don't know if you ever looked at that. Maybe you're one of them. But why do we have the desire, so much so that we need to have the title, we need to have that kind of notoriety. We need to be that unique. You are unique. You are a son or a daughter of the living God. There was an interview with the former First Lady of the United States of America, and she was asked a question. She said, I'm going to try not to mess this up. She said, what was the biggest sacrifice you made for your country as First Lady? And she said, the biggest sacrifice that I made was I gave up anonymity. And if you don't know what anonymity is, it is comes off of the word anonymous. She no longer has any space to have any kind of privacy in her life. And I think it's really funny that the thing she desperately wants back is the thing that so many of us are trying to get out of. The thing that she wishes she could have back is the thing that we are trying to get ourselves out of. I find that so intriguing. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to prove it. When we switch our mentality from a prove it mentality, when we can get out of that, our performance now becomes based on our purpose. Our performance becomes based on our purpose. And I'm telling you right now, if I can sum up the purpose of humanity, it is to bring God glory in everything we do. And when we start to wrap our minds around that I don't need to prove it to people and that I can live within my purpose exactly where God has me, then all of a sudden, those pressures and those anxieties to perform for other people begin to go away. Because you know what you are doing is for God. I'm not even kidding you. This is something I was literally struggling with before I got up here. Because jokingly, there were a lot of people saying, no pressure, no pressure, no pressure. And nobody really knew, like, oh, he's speaking of pressure, the pressure to perform. And I'm literally sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, I'm about to perform, quote unquote, and give a message, and I'm feeling the pressure to get the approval of the people sitting in front of me. But really, I am doing this because this is what God has called me to do, and this is my purpose, and I'm not doing it for your approval. I'm doing it to bring him glory. It's something we struggle with. But when we can move out of it, when we can move into working and performing for a purpose to bring God glory, it changes the game. So Jesus knew he was going to the party. Jesus totally knew he was going to the party. He's like, yeah, party all the way. I'm going. But I love this verse because he says this. Let me find it. Here we go. He says this in verse 10. But after his brothers left, so he's like, sorry, bros, I'm not going. But after his brothers left for the festival, Jesus also went. Jesus went to the party, though secretly staying out of public view. Jesus went to the party. He went to the festival, but he went in secret. Jesus purposely kept himself from public view. And I wonder, what is it that you or I need to purposefully limit our exposure to? For me, no joke, it's other churches' Instagrams. You're gonna think that's funny, but that's okay. I have to be very careful when I look at other churches, other youth ministries' Instagram. Because what it begins to do in my heart is I get this very kind of jealousy, I guess. I get jealous because I begin to look at what they're doing and I begin to doubt what we're doing, and I'm like, wow, they are doing it so much better than I'm doing it, and I begin to compare. I have to be careful. I have to limit my exposure to that stuff, because then I become very performance-based and I want to get the approval of people around me to tell me I'm doing a good job so that I feel like I'm doing a better job than the people I'm seeing on Instagram. And then I begin to think, okay, I got to post better pictures, I got to post cooler pictures, I got to have bigger events, and I got to have more numbers. And I'm telling you, this is something I have to be careful with. This is not an uncommon thing to be teaching about. And the reason it's not uncommon is because it is killing us. That when we perform for people, we destroy our very ability to reach people. And so I want to ask you a question. What causes you to perform for people? What do you need to purposely limit yourself? What do you need to purposely keep yourself from? What do you purposely need to keep private so that you don't find yourself performing for people? There's a passage in the Bible where we see the conversation happen where it starts talking about prayer. And we start hearing that prayer is actually something to be encouraged in private, as something between you and God. And it talks about how go pray in private in your room, in your closet, wherever you need to go, as to not do it publicly for everybody to see you so that they can see that you're such a spiritual person. Some of us have the deep desire for everybody to know how spiritual we are, that we put it out there for the whole world to see, but there are some things that you need to keep private. There are some things that you should journal rather than post. You don't have to post it to prove it. And I want to give you the opportunity to free yourself from these pressures to perform for people. Because when we perform for people, we destroy our very ability to reach people. We cannot love people if we are so focused on performing for them. We cannot care for people if we are so focused on performing for that person. So, I ask you, and I challenge you, what causes you to perform for people? What do you need to limit yourself in? What do you need to keep yourself from to avoid falling into a prove it mentality? Because you don't have to. You have purpose. You are a son or a daughter of the living God. You are unique. You are set apart. I'll say it one more time. When you perform for people, you will destroy your very ability to reach people. God, thank you so much for the youth in this room. God, I pray for the hearts in this room that if there's any kind of struggle going on in which we are trying to perform for people, God, let us turn our hearts to you and know that we have a purpose. And that when we perform for our purpose, when we look at our purpose and bring you glory in everything we do, it takes away the pressure. Because you've called each and every one of us to something. Exactly where we're at right now, in the places we're at, with the groups we have, with the friends we have, you've called us to bring you glory in all of that. So God, I pray that you give the youth the strength they need to know that they don't have to prove it. That there's nobody they need to prove anything to, because they are a son or a daughter of you. Lord, thank you so much. We love you. Thank you for your son, Jesus. Thank you that he understands us and he gets it and he understands pressure. But he's also able to teach us that when pressure comes, that we can keep our focus on you and we don't have to try to perform for people, but that we can live in our purpose in which you've given us. In your heavenly name, amen. You guys are awesome. Have a great week. Those of you going to camp, have a blast, have fun, get out of here.